New York City. Just saying the name brings up so many images. You've got the skyscrapers, the nonstop energy, the yellow cabs. But have you ever stopped to think about how it all happened? How did a tiny remote trading post grow into, well, the capital of the world? Okay, let's jump in and trace 400 years of history to figure out how this incredible city was made. Today, it is an absolute mega city. We're talking over 8.3 million people, and every single one of them has their own story. But here's the thing that's truly wild. The New York that we all picture in our heads, it's actually a super recent invention. Just think about that for a second. That iconic skyline, the culture, that electric feeling you get on the streets, almost none of it was there just 100 years ago. This city's story is one of constant, radical change.
So that's the big question, right? How did that happen? How do you go from a small European outpost to the global center it is today? To get the real story, we have to rewind the clock way, way back, before any Europeans had even seen this place. For thousands and thousands of years, this wasn't a city at all. It was a land of thick forests and clean rivers, and it was home to the Lenape people. They had a whole world here, a whole way of life, a universe away from the steel and concrete to come. The first Europeans to really make a permanent mark were the Dutch. In 1625, they set up a settlement called New Amsterdam, and it was all built around a fort right there on the southern tip of Manhattan, designed to protect their really valuable fur trade.
And this is where we get to one of the most famous, or maybe infamous, deals in all of history. You've probably heard about it. The price tag for the island of Manhattan, 60 guilders.
So in 1626, the Dutch government bought the land from a local Lenape group for trade goods that were worth that amount. Today, that's maybe around $1,000. But what's so important to remember is that these two cultures had completely different ideas about what it even meant to own land. For the Dutch, it was a straightforward purchase. For the Lenape, the whole concept was almost unimaginable.
But as it turns out, Dutch control didn't last all that long. England and the Netherlands were huge rivals, and in 1664, an English fleet just sailed right into the harbor. The Dutch governor knew he was outgunned, so he surrendered without a single shot being fired. And just like that, the English took over and renamed the place New York.
Fast forward about a century, and as tensions with Great Britain started to boil over, New York became a real hotbed for revolutionary ideas. You had the Sons of Liberty here, the Stamp Act Congress met here. But then, in a huge twist of irony, Washington's army suffered a major defeat, and the British actually occupied the city for almost the entire Revolutionary War. It wasn't liberated until 1783. And then, for this brief, incredible moment, New York was everything. It was the first capital of the brand new United States. This is where George Washington was inaugurated as president. It's where the first Congress met and where the Bill of Rights was drafted, all happening right there on Wall Street. The 19th century, though, that's when things just exploded. The absolute game changer was the Erie Canal, which opened in 1825. It basically turned New York into an economic superhighway, the country's #1 port. And all that new money fueled these incredible projects. A giant public park right in the middle of the island, the breathtaking Brooklyn Bridge, and of course, the Statue of Liberty, a symbol of hope for millions. But all of that growth came at a really, really high price. The population just ballooned from 60,000 to over 500,000 in 50 years. That led to horrible conditions, overcrowded neighborhoods where diseases like cholera would rip through, unsafe tenement buildings, and infamous gangs in places like Five Points. The tensions eventually boiled over into the incredibly violent draft riots in 1863. Then, as we hit the 20th century, the city's ambition just went vertical. It became this incredible race to the sky. And in this breathtakingly short amount of time, you get the Woolworth Building, then the Chrysler Building, and then the Empire State Building. It was like the city's confidence was being built right into the clouds. And oh man, this was the era of the Roaring '20s. With Prohibition in full swing, the city became this total paradox. Alcohol was illegal, right? But New York was buzzing with speakeasies and jazz clubs. Some people estimate there were as many as 100,000 illegal clubs running in the city. Can you even imagine that? But the party came to a screeching, devastating halt. The Wall Street crash of 1929 didn't just shake the city. It plunged the entire world into the Great Depression. The fallout was just immediate and brutal. Banks were failing, people were out of work, and thousands of desperate New Yorkers ended up building these little shanty towns. And they built them right in the middle of Central Park. They called them Hoovervilles. Just a devastating image of how far the city had fallen. And yet, in what was becoming a classic New York story, the city rose again. After World War II, with much of Europe in ruins, New York stepped onto the world stage like never before. It started to rival London as the world's financial capital, it took over from Paris as the center of the art world, and it became the permanent home of the United Nations. You know, when you look back at the 20th century, it's just this incredible whiplash of extremes. You go from the wild decadence of the 20s, to the desperate hardship of the 30s, to global power in the 50s, and then to crime and near bankruptcy in the 70s. This city has literally seen it all. And that really brings us to the one constant in New York's entire 400-year history. It is the ultimate Phoenix City. Through every single boom and every single bust, every crisis and every triumph, it has been defined by this unbelievable ability to reinvent itself. So the city we see today, it's really just one frame in a very, very long movie that's still going. And if New York is so completely different from what it was a century ago, it leaves you with a really fascinating question. What on earth is it going to look like 100 years from now?